Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now, you'll notice that the next couple of segments that you see were not for this video, hence different clothing. So it was actually for the video I uploaded yesterday, but just due to the time that video actually ended up going on for, I didn't want to come back with another episode that was like 30 minutes long, especially after the lives that we had this week. So I wanted to sort of keep that one a bit sharper, and I didn't realize I was talking for as long as I was in that segment with Clarissa Shields. But you know, sometimes it just gets like that. So I cut those out and said I'll put them into a different episode, hence why you see them here. With that being said, there's still a couple things I want to go over. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the kickoff press conference took place, I believe it was Wednesday, for David Benavidez versus David Morrell. Now, it's a Prime pay-per-view, or PBC pay-per-view on Prime Video, I should say. I don't know if it's going to be pay-per-view on this side of the world, although I would assume it will. It's not great. The fight itself is a very good fight. It's a fight that people have been wanting to see for a long time. I don't know if it's a fight people want to necessarily pay for, but it will do enough numbers, I suppose. Although, if I'm gonna be real, I don't know what enough is. I'm predicting maybe about 100,000, give or take, and that's sort of on the generous side. The undercard, there's fighters on the undercard, but it's not great. You know, Fulton and Figueroa, the rematch is, you know, it's a decent fight as the chief support. Fierro and Isaac Cruz, okay. I mean, and then you got Ramos and I can't remember who Ramos is fighting. And I probably should know this, but off the top of my head. But that being said, look, press conference was very interesting. When they did the face-off, was quite interesting as well. Benavidez basically saying how you gonna break. He said he's not even gonna break his jaw, he's gonna break his mouth. That he said, so you got something to remember me by. And then you've got, and the thing is though, is like, you gotta bear in mind the fact that David Morrell is like, you know, Cuban Spanish, but is, you know, he's learning English at a pretty good rate, to be fair. Like, it's still difficult for him to understand, you know, a lot of English in terms of if you're asking questions in English. He's not quite at that, the Canelo level, or even the Munguia level, where he can understand what you're saying. He just didn't really know how to answer it before. But he's doing it the other way. Like, he's learning the English words and how to get all of that together, but he still needs help to understand like what he's hearing in English. But he's doing, you know, I like what he's doing, and I like the fact he's you know, a lot of the Cubans don't learn English, and it's the whole, you know, but he's trying to learn it. He's trying to communicate in both sides so that he can build up a bigger profile. But when the two of them are getting back and forth, it obviously only works when they start speaking Spanish, because that's his natural tongue. That's his natural tongue, and I think David speaks it enough, or is fluent enough in it, that's the only way they can really like exchange. But I like the back and forth between the two of them. I don't need a basis picks to tell you guys how I feel about that fight. I done said from time that I think Morrell like washes Benavidez personally, and then when the picks come in, when it comes to that particular segment, I'll just have to talk more about how the fight plays out more than who I think is going to win, because you guys already know I think Morrell wins that fight, and I think he wins it quite comfortably. Again, as I said previously, and this isn't even about Vodzik, but like, Vodzik won that fight, and the only reason he didn't get that fight is because he's not the A side of that promotion. But you don't win a fight looking how Benavidez looked, getting pinged around the ring by someone that wasn't even giving full force in their punches from round 1 to round 12. But yeah, look, that's a whole nother story. I'm happy the fight's been made. The pay-per-view thing is probably going to detract from it, But boy, it is what it is, I guess. But we'll talk more about that closer to February. And I guess sticking on the whole PBC thing, so now that they've got that fight sorted out with Benavidez and Morrell, the report is that they're gonna have a the Tank Davis and Lamont Roach fight has been rescheduled to March. And this came out about a week ago or so. And I think Leonard Ellaby confirmed that, look, we're just waiting for a date to come through. But yes, it will still be Lamont Roach. Now, previously, Lamont Roach was only brought in because they couldn't get anyone else. There was no Lomachenko available. They don't think they wanted to fight Shakur, etc. So Lamont got a special dispensation from the WBA at 130 to go up to challenge for the 135 belt, which wasn't greatly received to begin with, but it's a case of, all right, well, there was no one else to fight. It was more or short notice to try and get a certain date. I get it. And this is no disrespect to Lamont Roach, because I think Lamont Roach is a good fighter, but it's still another guy from a lower weight class. It's still an uninteresting fight in that sense, because the way he fights is basically tailor-made for what Tank Davis wants to do, and you will find a pattern in pretty much every single Tank Davis fight. But since that fight couldn't be made before December like it was supposed to, well, Lomachenko said he was taking the rest of this year off and he'll revisit things back in the new year. All right. Okay, so that means that now you've got Lomachenko that you could have potentially been looking at. Dennis Berinchyk would have been available because he doesn't have any fights locked in. There's, you know, he's got a mandatory that I believe is about to be called, but it wasn't called yet. Unification could trump that. Shakur Stevenson, coming straight off of a hand surgery, I'm pretty sure he's said, look, you know, I'll wait for the call from Tank. Well, what would have been the reason to not fight him at this point in time? Would this not have been the best opportunity to get the scalp of Shakur Stevenson if he's now coming off of a hand surgery? He's not, you know, people now think, oh, he ain't really got the best hands. Plus, he's been inactive because of the fact that he pulled out of his last fight due to a hand injury, which he had to have surgery on. All these unification possibilities, and you're still persisting with a Lamont Roach fight. Why is that? Like, the questions have to be asked at this. Well, look, I'd say at this point, the questions have been asked for years, but like, the writing is on the wall now. The guy doesn't want decent work. He doesn't want work that is quote unquote on his level. It's almost like the fear of exposure is that great. And when some people say, oh, look, hard, you know, tough fights aren't exposures, or 50-50 fights or competitive fights, it's not exposures. Like, stop saying that about people, because then they don't want to take the hard fights. Yeah, that applies for someone who has been taking hard fights or competitive fights, even fights, for the majority of their career. When you've got someone who has so visibly had that many fights that are so lopsided, or is, you know, based on a metric or a certain style that is just tailor-made to them, and they don't veer from that, or they're constantly bringing up people from lower weight classes or draining down people that are bigger than them, you know, to have less energy and stuff. Like, after a while, yeah, people finally are gonna see the illusion. So then if you then fight someone that is thought to be on your level and you come a cropper, of course people are going to call you a hype, or people are going to call you a fraud, or X, Y, and Z, because now all of a sudden, when it's not totally within your control, you don't stay in character and you get beat. Now, if he was the one fight, I wouldn't give him I would give him credit. I wouldn't give him a huge amount of credit now, though, is a Lomachenko fight, because Lomachenko is about 4 years past his sell-by date. He's still top level, but he's an old man now. He's 37, you know, probably he'll be 38 next year. He's old, right? And no, or is he 36? Yeah, he might be 36 there. But yeah, he's 36. You've just turned 30, so you're hitting, or you've just come into your physical prime. He's outside of that. Plus, he was also naturally smaller guy than you. He started at 126. You was at 126 for a couple of fights, but yeah, you're a natural sort of 130 guy, and then 135. He's a natural 126, 130, competing at 135. I will give you credit though, because the levels and the skills is still there. But 7 years, you waited 7 years for that fight, and then when he's on the slide and on decline is when you want to take it. So you won't get the same level of credit as you would have got from me 2-3 years ago. But fine. Baranchyk, I'll give you credit for that one. Even, you know, even though he doesn't have a profile, Baranchyk again still a quality fight. I'll give you credit for Shakur. I give you credit for Keyshawn. Like, there's people. I give you credit for Andy Cruz, even though he's only just started in his pro career. Like, these are people, your contemporaries, that you need to be fighting. I give you credit for all of these people. Like, but Lamont Roach, I can't give you credit for that, because that's another pull me up. I can't give you credit for that. But it just goes to show that he really doesn't want any type of competitive fights. And I'm hoping that even some of my YouTube contemporaries that I hold in high esteem, that speak about him and that we actually have good interactions, I hope they finally can see what I've been seeing for years. So while it's not official as of yet, it's heavily rumored and pretty much a done deal that Derek Chisora is going to face Jarrell Big Baby Miller on the 8th of February, and it's going to be in Manchester. Now, if you remember, last year Derek Chisora said he had a 3-fight plan left. One was in London, which he did at Wembley. One was going to be in Manchester because that was his second home, and the last one was going to be in Africa. I think he wants it in Zimbabwe, but that may not happen, so he may get Nigeria, maybe Ghana. Technically, maybe they might count Saudi as, part of the, the African continent. Who knows how they're gonna choose that? But he said the last fight has to be based in Africa in some way, shape, or form. So my assumption would be that if he loses this fight, he may just go over to one of the local promotions over there and just fight anybody. Not even necessarily on a UK broadcast, just go over and be amongst the people and just sort of fight a fight that just ends up on the record. Very similar to Ebenezer Tete's last fight that he had, where it looked like they was just in the middle of a field with a 16 by 16 ring. Derek might just decide to go do that just to round off the career. Now, we look at the fight with Jarrell Miller. There is some very, very, very big risks in that fight, especially if he was trying to maybe stay undefeated until that final, that final fight, which I'm pretty sure he's probably aiming to be in Saudi Arabia. Let's be honest. But Jarrell Miller, a big, massive lump. He's probably walking in around about 350 at the minute. If he gets into shape in the ring, he probably would be about between 320 and 330. He seems to walk coming in and around that size. Now, I always got to kind of give him a bit of credit, because for as much size as that is, and for as short as he is, only being like, I think 6'3", maybe 6'4", he carries that weight surprisingly well. Like, with clothes on, you wouldn't 100% think he was over 300 pounds. So I'll kind of give him that when he's in shape. And even though the tests and everything took place, he doesn't throw as many shots as he used to. I mean, that's quite clear. He definitely is a lot more conservative with his work now, but he's still not like throwing. It's not like he's throwing 80 to 90% of shots less than he used to. It's probably about 45%. So there's still enough in there, and he's very smart these days of basically barely throwing anything, walking forward with the high guard, trying to maybe touch to the body a little bit, and then sort of in the last 20-30 seconds the team let him know, and then he like flurries and tries to do all of his damage at that part of the fight. Can Derek work for 2.5 minutes of a round and then sort of stay away for that last 30 seconds? Because Derek is also a person that likes to throw big booming shots right at the start of the round, basically try to take the rest of it off, hug and hold a little bit, maybe throw 1 or 2 shots here and there, and then maybe try to flurry towards the end of the round to try and nick it. Who can employ that tactic better? That's the question. Now, one thing, both of these guys are predominantly pressure fighters, so even though Derek is probably going to be the one more likely to end up on the back foot, he's not going to be looking to go on the back foot too much, except for when he gets tired in those middle to late rounds. And that will be the interesting part of the of how the fight plays out. Now, yeah, in terms of, you know, a card, you know, a Manchester card, it's an interesting one, it's an intriguing one. To be honest, I would actually be interested in going. So provided I can get enough time off work, you know, the press conferences will definitely be fun when they do take place. I'm sure the week building up would be quite a laugh, and I'd be interested in that. But maybe even if I could only get to go for the event itself, I could go as a fan, just go up there for the day, maybe just a overnight stay, maybe just grab a hotel for the night or something, and then come back the next morning. I might do it. I may not even need to get an accreditation. That might be worth going just for the atmosphere of like the last fight in the UK, if that's what it's going to be. But yeah, I figured I wanted to just speak about that fight and the fact that it's almost basically confirmed. It's not the fight I would have expected for your second to last, but that being said, I wouldn't have expected the Joe Joyce fight, even though I predicted Derek to win that fight, and he did. This one is a lot more risky. When it gets closer, obviously we do basis picks, we do predictions, we'll sort of figure out how I feel, how I see both guys developing and whatnot. But yeah, for the time being, I can't complain, especially as the fact that it won't be a pay-per-view fight. That's the main thing. It's not well, it shouldn't be pay-per-view. So if that's the case, then yeah, let's have it. But with that being said, thank you very much for watching. Probably one more episode take place today. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to try for you lot. We're trying to keep the content consistent, and we're trying to keep a steady number right now. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you everyone who joined the lives. Thank you to Mulla who joined me on the casual stream on Thursday. That was very fun, very entertaining. I hope more people will jump onto the next one, when we just talk about everything non-boxing related. But yeah, more casual streams, more base talk lives, more base talks in general. I've got a few other people that I'm sorting out some interviews with coming up soon. So yeah, without all that good stuff, I'm gonna look forward to it, and I hope you guys will as well. But for right now, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. That's the Hardcore Casual out.